unfortunately, I was involved in this whole left to this out of interest. And even all the components, and then the uses. And I was supposed to talk on how to arrange this component to make the conveyor deliverable. There are many methods that are involved in it. And original design may look complicated. It's not complicated. It's just a repeating sequence of rings and rods. And it's versatile because of its modularity. It's strong because of its simplicity. And it's biological because of its negligible footprint on the bone. There are many components, but essentially they're very simple. And also the use needs not too much of complex instrumentation that will be very easy to understand all of them. And such components can be arranged together to make many customized fixators. No other fixation device can give you that sort of customized fixation device that you need in individual fracture situations like an Elizarov set can do. So the learning objectives will be construction of a balance frame, tensor synthesis frame, that is the fracture fixation frame, and optimization of the various components. Progressive construction versus prefabricated fixator is something, because that is always a confusion between the beginners, in a big mind of the beginners, when they see that people are doing progressively and some are making a preconstructed frame and laying out on a boom. So we'll start with the half ring and the full rings, which are the principal components. Now it's not very difficult to understand what they are. The half ring are connected together to make a full ring by two nuts and bolts. There are certain situations, the proper size is important, regardless of what you choose. The proper size is important. You can do it by template, by direct measuring, but the best way is to use the ring themselves and using the two-phase rule so that you get adequate clearance all around. Then these full rings, compared to the half rings, are slightly lighter and have more usable holes. So we need to understand that this area can accommodate more connectors and rods than this area, which goes to it because of nuts and bolts. However, for deformity correction frames, where you need these are very useful for deformity correction frames where you need more usable holes to place your hinge appropriately, like in this area. Otherwise, it would have been occupied by nuts and bolts. But the half rings are far more versatile. They can be arranged to make many different shapes and sizes according to your suitability, and it provides attachments for connectors to make foot frames, 4-foot attachments like that. It's very important to understand how to connect these. It's a common mistake that will be made. This makes the half rings actually connect. It makes the half rings actually in different planes, and they are not designed to withstand that amount of 300 kgs weight if they are on the same plane. That's the basis between this fixator and the other fixators. And then there are other rings, components of the primary components that are the 5/8 rings, the omega rings, and the curved plate that are used in special circumstances for soft tissue care like this. Then in case of proximal humerus, the distal humerus, and these omega rings are adapted to accommodate the trunk and give you extension. Half rings cannot be used for purposes for which they are used, because half rings will only give you one K-wire. Crossing of K-wire needs a little bit of extension so that you get at least 30 degrees. So when they are not available, one can use curved plates to extend when you run out of holes on the other side, so that you get another wire on the same segment in extension. However, they make the structure weak, and one has to be sure that they are connected well, very strongly with posts or sockets. The special components are there for the proximal femur. The Russian system utilizes an arch with K-wires, where they apply in the trochanteric region, whereas the Asami has the Italian arches designed for sans pins, half pins. They are not sans pins, half pins. And they leads to other component like the proximal femoral arch support and attachment coupling devices, different types of coupling devices for the half pins. Here comes the issue of the hybrids. There is a lot of confusion regarding the use of term hybrids. We are recently talking about the hybrid Elizarov frame. We'll be talking about that. But hybrid term is also used in the case of hybrid external fixator, where the Elizarov components are used along with other tubular components, other fixator components, so that soft tissue care is better in the initial part and it can be applied as a damage control system. Minimal internal fixation when combined in some cases with fixator is called a hybrid form of fixation. So hybrid Elizarov frame is basically when you use all conventional, all wires becomes a hybrid convention. When you use majority of half pins as primary fixation devices, they become the hybrid type 2. But if you use the half pins to augment the fixation, which are basically with K wires, in certain situations which I'll highlight, it becomes a hybrid type 1. So it scarce use of half pins, but basically it's a K wire based frame. So I will not go into the details, pros and cons about this video is not working, but this was a video, then the rest of the video will also not go. Where this is a case of 18 Pinterest, 9 transfixation wires, 5 cm transport. There was no soft tissue procedure done at the end, and actually no bone grafting was needed. I just wanted to show you the function that is possible with I have enough time, I can. So, conventional all-wire fixator. Here in the proximal femur, you can see the arrangement of the K-wires in the interposterior direction does not have the necessary 30-degree divergence. That leads to some sort of extensionality, and half pins sometimes can be used as situations to augment the fixation of the K-wires. It becomes a type support type 1. So remember that the principle that we use a half pin is not equal to transfixation pin, much less than a transfixation wire. They are totally different things. Because of the transmission, this picture is showing you, which will be easy to understand. The half pins must be coupled with solid holding devices. If you increase the size of the half pin, that necessarily does not make the fixator strong, because your chain will be as strong as the weakest link. Something else is going to break. The connecting nuts and bolts here, they are designed to withstand direct forces up to 300 kgs on the plane of the ring. So, but nothing oblique or some other thing where, and it's going to get damaged. It's a very common situation in long distractions in proximal femur when proximal arches can break, even if you use bigger half pins. So now coming to the connecting rods and the ring spacing, they are threaded rods. 4 is good enough. They are used to space the ring apart equally, and the situation as demanded in proximal and distal metaphyseal. If you go up to the diaphysis, we can, because of the fixator is so biological, you can span the entire bone with minimal footprints. So the bigger the span, that's better. That is a frame that is example of a bifocal osteogenesis. You must remember that when fitting the rings together with connecting rods, they must neither be too close nor too far apart. Because too close, you can end up splintering when you do some dichotomy, and too far apart, you may not have good control. Yet, when you go for docking site, you must know that the point of resection must be planned and the rings must be spaced about 3 centimeters proximate to them. Otherwise, everything becomes unstable. It's important to understand that connecting the rods to the wire fixation devices must be as close as possible because the distance causes more strain and it can break. Try to place them as close to the wire fixation bolts, buckles, or whatever devices you have so that you get more rigidity, yet enough clearance. Now, a lot of things have been done on the labs, but ideally they don't have blood vessels, so you have to modulate your fixation or transfixation wires according to the local anatomy. But as far as practice, if you don't follow that, you will end up with a lot of instability as in all directions. And if you don't follow that, you can miss a lot of potential in fixing, having a good fixation. Like, it's not about the soft tissue only. Look at the loading of the bone cortex in diverging wires. If you don't do that, even the cortex is not loaded well. So get as much of divergence as possible, but do not go on the line of lesser divergence. And the axis, as you progressively build the ring from one end to the other, it's important to understand that even a slight angulation can lead to an overall very bad angulation at the end. So this thing has to be kept in mind when you construct the ring from one end to the other. These are the things that are used to wire fixation bolts that are slotted or threaded or slotted or hole, and a wire fixation buckles. And there are special wire fixation bolts with threaded holes where you can use them in place where they are plastic connecting bolts. And when you use them, you have to manage in such a way that you reduce wire offset from the plane of the rings. The plane of the rings are very important to stick to because that is the mechanically most advantageous region. If you are sticking the wire out of the plane, you have to use washers, but never bring the wires to the plane. And if you need two washers, that's okay. Even you may go for a post, but never bring the wire to the plane. That pinching of the soft tissues and cause very severe pain in the post-operative period. It's preferable that you use the wires on the same side of the ring. Even a 5 millimeter, using it on opposite side will cause a 5 millimeter offset, and that is not that will be shear on the design of the ring. That will have a tendency to bend the ring. Okay? So, but if you use them, they are usually used in pairs from either side, so that you get balanced overall fixation. Primary loss of reduction occur if the wires are offset in the plane of the ring also. For example, you may not direct the wire directly on the opposite side hole. You may be a little bit offset. So then that is where you use the centric and the eccentric bolts as required, but never pull it to one side forcefully and get it, because that will cause loss of reduction, pinching of soft tissues, and severe pain. If you don't have, if you go between the bolts here, between the holes here, you can use a buckle. Now this is a technique that is described using wires a little bit offset on the plane of the ring and tightening it to subsequently get side-to-side compression. But have to be very cautious about using this because of anatomical consideration, and it can only be used to a limited amount of degree in oblique fractures. Because if you have a wire offset in an oblique fracture, the entire fracture can get totally separated out and will remain like that. So it's very important to use it cautiously when you try to do that. That's the easy way. Cysts can occur in tensioning. That just like Agarwal also told us, there is a technique, it's pretty old now, turning the wire fixation bolts in anti-clockwise direction and tightening them up, but it can cause a shift in loss of reduction. In oblique fracture, it can matter. And so better to use a Russian type of tensioner here or a dynamometer. Some groups suggest that you can use a couple of them together. It's not necessary, but whatever you do, the end point is always to check it with the sound that is made. You have to have a metallic sound. If you have a dull sound, then you have to retighten again. Maybe you can use the Russian technique in the second step by turning the bolts. but you have to have metallic sound. Even in your follow-up, in every OPD, if the patient complains of pain, that is the first possibility is a loose wire. So you have to sound it. If it is not giving a metallic sound, just twist it and tighten it again to get it. If it is not tightening up again, you have to exchange the wire. Otherwise, complications arises. Adequate tensioning is important, as is evident from this diagram. Less tension will evidently lead to a lag in your absolute amount of distraction. This is not desirable. The rates, the rhythms are very accurately found out, and they have to be transmitted from your fixator to the bone. So it cannot be transmitted with lax wires. It has to be tight. They increase day by day. These are the signs that you look for in your X-rays. The wire is bending opposite to the direction the force is being given. So not only the tensioning of the wire is important, the use of wire spacing, the drop wires or the supports are important to get axial stability. In this case, even if they are properly tensioned, if there is a short fragment, the fragment is going to toggle on the axis of the ring. So you have to use a drop wire to get offset to two-level fixation. So this is a technique of using supports to give drop wires or have another level of fixation in a short fragment that is favored by the Professor Elizarov. But there are other ways also. But you must be very sure that you do not produce an induced deformation while using this, because it's an eccentric wire. So if you press it like this, pull it, the rings can get deformed like that. So my earlier advice was to use your connectors very close to them, so that they exert at least a corrective force, not bend the wires. And they are preferably tightened at the end of your ring assembly. Complete all the connecting rods are taken up, the rings are rigid, and then you can put in 90 kg weight on them, but not more than that. Sometimes either side can be used to balance. So this is much better than using a half ring because it allows only one wire, but you can use definitely in certain situations that will give better range of motion to the knee joint or elbow joint like that. So this is another technique of putting a stress on the opposite direction to the anticipated deviation of a segment. We all know that the tibia goes into a procarpatum and a valgus because of the muscle pull. So what some people, the Catagni, Professor Catagni does was to press it on this side and put the wire and anteriorly, and then when they are connected together, they exert a corrective force on the other side, so that the overall deviations does not occur. It will be very easy to understand once we see this on the bone models. We can demonstrate and show you this technique. So secondary translation and rotation correction is also possible. This is another advantage that the Elizarov method gives you, that none other. If you have a malreduction at the end of your surgery, you can simply do a correction in the ward, or you may need a simple minor OT procedure. And simple connectors like the connecting plates and switching to adjacent holes can correct translation and rotation. But this has to be minimal. It has a limit to which that can be corrected, otherwise the frame stability suffers. Certain clinical examples will highlight this. This is a case that went into valgus after compression was done because of probably loosened wire or something. This is very easy to understand. The wire was loosened. So it was simply corrected by adding peri-mounting devices like hinges here. So we are ultimately ended up, some derotation was also done to get a very good correction and with the patient functional. With a crank frame, however, but this is not ideal. But you can do it if you don't want to go for a major surgery, major reapplication again. This peri-mounting on subsequent secondary correction is possible if you require. This is an example where the translation was applied in an oblique fracture which appeared distracted in the post-op X-rays, and plates were used to translate this segment over this segment and ultimately ended up with good compression and healing. This was immediately after operation. We found that this was externally rotated, internally rotated, and so the segment was totally freed and adjacent holes were used to externally rotate this fragment, and posts were applied to have a good rigidity. So these are the corrections that can be done with minimal amount of adjustments of a ring. But you have to understand that doing a rotation will induce a shift in the reduction. That has to be anticipated because the bones are not concentric to the rings. And when you induce a rotation later on, the bones can shift. So in an oblique fracture that matters. In transverse it may not matter, but in oblique it can go wrong. So try to understand that it can, you may even have to adjust shift after rotation. So support, post and half hinges. These are the terms used for devices, connectors like this one. And half hinges, better to use the half hinges dedicated for this purpose to create a hinge rather than use support and post. People also use supports and posts for making hinges, but they will cause offset of those connecting rings, not like this one. The half hinges are eccentrically placed, and when they are connected together, the rods are actually in the same line. In supports, if you use them, they will come eccentric, so that will cause some sort of deviations. So occasional use things are also there. I am not going to details of all the things that are possible with your releaser of devices, but some use some things like distraction with olive wires in long distractions, or in case of distraction exceeding 5-7 centimeters, you can use the telescopic rods and partially threaded rods, or graduated telescopic rods, things like that. These are examples that are already told about slotted threaded rod used for making traction in it, for traction in a definite direction. But these are the things that you will be needing later on once you go and get used to your system. Other things that are more important to understand. Long connecting plates are used to make hinges in certain types of deformity correction frames, like the push-pull techniques, and sometimes to strengthen frames. I use them to nowadays to apply them temporarily on the other side and remove the frame so that we can plate a regenerate, because we are now trying to go for lengthening followed by plating to improve the rehabilitation of the patient. So during the temporary phase, the connecting rods can be used to stabilize the frame on one side, other side, and then the operation can be the plating operation can be carried out on the other side. Okay, there are other methods that are described for increasing stiffness of the system, but they are not very useful. You will not find enough space as given in books in real life to apply these connections to strengthen. Even 4 rods connecting on either side of a ring make it stiff enough. It will be actually 8 4 rods on a ring. So coming to the last part of the talk, it is the pre-construction versus progressive construct. When you go to the literature, you'll find that there is a technique called the Argagni technique involved in the Asami book, and the Ketagni technique, which involves pre-construction of the frame and sterilizing it before going to the surgery. And the Argagni technique, which is similar to the one practiced in Kogan by Elizarov, involves progressively bringing a frame with each and every one by one. When you go to this book, we found that in acute trauma cases, Elizarov recommends progressive concentric reconstruction of frame piece by piece over the limb. But it is very strange that in the same book, there is another page which I have just photographed and brought you, which said that Professor Elizarov prefers to construct the frame in advance and then take it, sterilize it. And finally, the authors have ended, Vladimir Golyakovsky and Viktor Frankl, they have added that surgeon must have a clear idea in each case of what to choose. Some may be beneficial, the other may not be. So in what case which is suitable, you have to understand this. So progressive construct assembly is highlighted by this Argagni technique method for maintaining a reduction in the with bolsters or stimulant or a traction table, and progressively building the frame from one side to the other like this. It is easy to understand, I hope. But we have already seen that a 10 degree at the beginning, at a step will be compounded to get you an eccentric ring if your wire placement sequence is not correct. So you must be very careful when you are using a progressive building, so that you get the axis of your limb and axis of the ring at the outset. So that maybe you fix the first and the last ring first, then you can go for the middle rings. But if you can have a progressive from one side, you end up having a wide axis deviation. And that will be very difficult to correct. Besides that, it's a time factor, because if you tighten about 90 nuts in a surgery, besides the other tensioning device, things that are to be done. Someone has to maintain the reduction throughout. My PGs run away because of this. They don't like to assist because it takes a lot of time when you progressively build up. There's soft tissue injury on the traction table that you have to anticipate. If you are working on a compound cases with minimum soft tissue tags and all that, you don't know how much of traction is actually beneficial, how much of traction for how long can you give on that patient. So progressive construction on a very severely injured limb on a traction table is not an ideal situation. And then post-operative orientation, we found limbs in internal rotation after we have remove from traction table because it's in the wrong direction from the lateral side, and then so better to do on the table really. This is another example that we have to revise. It's the usual complication that you find in distal table braking if you put in a traction table. So just by hanging it down, you can get it corrected. Not too much of that. This is the hybrid type 1 or type 2 because most of them are sunscreen on that. I did not change the design of the original Surgeon, just with the reduction. Traction on the traction table is very useful for plateau fractures. That I will have to admit because you can put a high density wire on this and take care of the posteromedial fragment if it is hanging free. Right. It can also help you to maintain reduction of dislocated knee joints. And pre-construction here have some advantages. It saves time because half of the ring is already done. You take care that there is a loose so that you do not commit the length. They are adjusted on table as required on the patient's body. And it's a reference point to position the ring. The ring gives you the reference axis to which you adjust the reduction. The frame itself is used for traction. The frame can be used as a zig to pass the K wires. So when you pass the Elizarov wire, if you place it on the frame and then pass it, there will hardly be any offset. But rather than if you pass it freely, okay, it mimics the postoperative positioning. You can understand that. So the various positioning during the surgery can be done if you keep the limb free and put a pre-constructed or semi-constructed ring like that, like we use. It's not moving. Okay. This is just a video of two pre-constructed ring in deformity frames, where you can make the hinges on a frame and see whether the hinges are working or not. Because if you progressively construct on deformed limb, if you place the hinge, you are never sure whether the hinge will be working or they will be locked. So it's a pre-construction is a method where in deformity correction the hinges can be tested. And this is what something that I'd like to highlight about your technique, because nothing is given on the sequence of wire placement. As more and more wires goes into the system, the limb gets committed more and more. So there is always a time when some form of reduction will not be possible after one particular wire. For example, on either side of the reduction, if you put 2 K wires, the rotation is committed. After that, whatever you do, the rotation cannot be changed. So we have to it has to be highlighted that the second wire is the rotation wire. After that, the rotation has to be adjusted at that point only. After that, everything is possible, but rotation is not. So this is how we do the knee joint reference wire. Then we put the pre-constructed ring or the semi-constructed ring and fix it to the ankle wire. They are at 90 degrees to one another. They will commit rotation, but they will not commit the angulation and the shift. Then we tighten up the rods to get the traction, do the final correction in between, little bit of correction, and do the reduction holding wires 3 and 4. This actually finishes almost 80% of the job, and all that is left is to put the additional wire at level using the frame itself as a zig so that we reduce the wire offset at each level. All the wires goes into the same plane, and connecting all the rods and putting the post finishes the frame. This can easily be done in 30 minutes, and not too much of labor or assistance is needed. So if this is a very important video that I wanted to show, only just 2 minutes, a quick video, but unfortunately it is not working. Can you show this video? It starts from the knee joint reference wire and the ankle joint reference wire. I see. Sorry for the should have used the computer. You also take care. No, I think you also take care with your presentation. The codecs are not matching. Yes, we can use that. What's wrong? Length of the ring levels, but most of the construction can be done through this. So I told you, commit rotation with the second wire on a pre-constructed ring, finish with the reduction, do the third and fourth fixation, and then complete the frame. So this is what I wanted to show you. A semi-constructed or sort of first wire goes in, and the ring is loose. My assistant is holding it centered, taking the help of the axis of the frame. That's why the axis of the frame is very important. It helps you to align the limb on that axis. Where we are not, second wire tightening actually commits the rotation. After that, simply tightening those rods. Only one anterior and one posterior rod gives you the amount of distraction that you need. Some correction is possible because these wires are in AP and lateral, vertical and transverse. So you can do that final correction. Adjust the levels very minutely and again. You have to have them. Then the reduction is held by the assistant with two fingers on the medial side to maintain radius and the equinus so that the recurvatum is not there. And then this is committed. The reduction is committed. In case of a 4-ring construct, you can do another step like this, and everything gets committed. These are not good wires. I should not be able to bend him like that. So this is the second wire. Almost a 90-degree divergence can be achieved at certain regions. Stop go. I use this sort of hardware drill because it gives me the option of low speed drilling. The man drill is very fast. It should be avoided. And some other types of drill must be designed that is very slow. Otherwise it burns, particularly the cortical bone can get burned. So this is about 70-degree divergence on the diaphysis. And these are additional wires only. And finally, you complete the frame. Notice what I said about putting the connecting rods very close to the wire fixation anchorage, so that the elasticity of the frame is reduced to great bit. Only the wires are elastic. Then, after completing the rods, you put the drop wire at the last. Otherwise, the frame, the ring will become curved. If you tension it more than 90, it finishes. The entire steps were shown actually, and it took 2 minutes. The original video was 4 minutes. So even if you tinker with it for another 2 times, 3 times, you still end up doing the surgery in half an hour. So the take-home messages mine will be: the strength of the system lies in its simplicity. Do not make it overly complicated. Optimize to make the strongest functional construct. You have to optimize it. Attention to the sequence of progressively committing the limb to a fixator is a thing that has to be really thought on and applied. This is not something that you can just haphazardly put all the wires without any sequence. And finally, the full use of versatility and modularity of the set must be used, because it gives you the advantage of doing it post-operatively also. Correcting any lapse that has been in the primary surgery can be corrected post-operatively by following the principles of deformity correction. So these are the things that you can make full use of in using the laser. Thank you.